And the heart and soul of the business includes manufacturers reps, an extension of their sales teams. You've got wholesalers that are deeply involved. And every time you go to these trade shows, it's manufacturers. And I've been going to numerous association events. I went to AHR, which is the Association of Independent Manufacturers Reps in Florida last September. And NEMRA is happening in next month, I believe, in Vegas. NEMRA is the Association for Manufacturers Reps on the electrical side. Yeah, and what I've discovered is that there's certainly a lot of similarities around what people are struggling with. There are opportunities for everyone to get skilled up and share experiences and learn from each other. So my role in this is, why don't I help and see what I can do from my experience? So I'm going to jump in. I started this business 2.5 years ago. And I appreciate you joining me today. I know you're following me on LinkedIn. That's how we got to know each other. And it's very nice to meet you in person. I shared a little bit about who I am. So I'm going to give you a little background so that you can get a better understanding. Who's Chris Atwell? All right. My business, Mindset Conquest, is my consulting agency. I focus primarily on helping manufacturers reps, owners of manufacturers reps agencies, inspire and develop high-performing teams and free up more time for themselves, because there's a lot going on in your business. Even though that's my focus and I'm the premier partner in that industry, I do help a lot of manufacturers. I do a lot of trainings with manufacturers. I'm also involved on the wholesale side. And my background comes from a lot of different areas. I started my sales career working at Purolator in Canada. Purolator's UPS in Canada. Like UPS, I should say. They're as big as. From a ratio standpoint. And I started in inside sales, right? Making 40 phone calls a day, cold calling people, pre-qualified lists of leads that marketing would hand to me. And my role was to convince these small to medium-sized businesses, without even seeing them face-to-face, to partner with Purolator for their shipping and logistics needs. I went up to an account executive role quite quickly. Within a year, I moved to Edmonton from Toronto, managed a territory in Alberta, and then I got promoted again to national accounts, where they shipped me out to Montreal. I'm fluently bilingual in English and French. So I spent a couple of years in Montreal managing major accounts like Bombardier, which is, they make Skidoo, they make BRP, they make all kinds of quads, and all, they make the Spider, all that kind of stuff. And I managed a lot of contractors, general contractor accounts. Then I got farmed out by Grainger. There was this exodus from Purolator. I wouldn't say an exodus, but a shift. The VPs over at Purolator ended up going to Grainger. And the model that they were promoting, the culture that they were promoting, was very similar. It was all based on value-based selling, consultative selling, and conversational selling, solving problems for customers and offering solutions. So the VPs looked at all the high-performing salespeople at Purolator and said, hey, come work for me. So I ended up getting pulled to Grainger. And I worked in a national accounts capacity, working with general contractors and major industrial companies, manufacturers, supplying them with their maintenance, repair, operational supplies, making sure that they're covered from A to Z, that there's a one-stop shop for them, bringing in all kinds of different solutions, from vending solutions to on-site service, things like that. But my role was to negotiate the agreements, understand their needs, implement the business, and then hand it to a business manager once the business was running. Then I got farmed out by Camplas. I told you the story about the technical sales role that they were looking to fill. And I spent almost 5 years there, and I loved it. I was like, this is the cat's ass. I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. I love this. I built this division. I'm hiring people. I'm working with manufacturers reps all across North America. I'm making a difference. Then IPEX and Camplas merged. And there was a big shift. And unfortunately, my role was eliminated. IPEX had a number of technical sales engineers on staff. And everything got moved around, and they said, Chris, we got a role for you, but not this one. Okay, that's fine. So then I ended up going to ITW. And ITW is a major Fortune 200 company. They're based out of here in Chicago. And they're a manufacturer. They're a manufacturer of many things: welding products, construction fasteners, automotive fasteners, specialty products. There's a saying that you're never more than 10 feet away from an ITW product. They're that big. And my role was as a national sales manager. So I managed the commercial sales team at ITW in Canada from coast to coast. And we focused on commercial projects, working with distributors. But let's drive, you probably heard of Tapcon, blue concrete screws, right? Ramset, you probably used a Ramset gun in your basement or something like that, or in your garage. So really cool. But my passion for developing people really got sparked there. And I went through numerous developing leaders programs and got sent to school and studied at Yale and studied at Kellogg Northwestern for different programs around leadership. And developed my team into high performers so that when I would leave, I could leave knowing that the place was going to be taken care of. And a couple of years ago, it was COVID, and I was spending time online, and I started posting things around peak performance habits and sales practices that peak performers use, and just kind of putting stuff out. And then I started getting messages from people around my network saying, hey, you want to help me with something? Okay, let's figure this out. So I started helping manufacturers reps with different challenges, things around routines and habits and processes and systems, and people development. They're implementing new CRM systems. How can, what's your experience there? I've been using CRM systems for 2 decades. Implemented new ones multiple times for my teams. I've promoted people, and they're going through challenges promoting people within the organization. All kinds of cool stuff, and then it just kind of built into my business now, and here I am hosting workshops and working with manufacturers reps, manufacturers and wholesalers all across North America, hosting leadership development programs, doing one-on-one coaching, and holding group trainings for their sales teams. And I absolutely love it. So when this opportunity came up for me to host some workshops here, I was asked about what content should I cover. And the 3 things that came up for me were the ones that I hear the most about. Right? Companies are growing, they're entering into succession, or perhaps they're going through mergers and acquisitions, and there's a need to better understand how you can develop leaders, but also how to delegate more often, right? There's CRM systems, technology is taking off, but adoption is super low. How do we get people on my team to use CRM and leverage the system for its value? And then also, you're bringing on new people all the time. Onboarding is such a big challenge that that's something else that I'll be talking about today. But this particular workshop is specific to cultivating effective leadership within your agency, within your business. It applies across the board. And what I mean by that is, look, there are many opportunities for all of us to step into our leadership at a greater level. Doesn't matter how long you've been in a business. There's a book that I read from John Maxwell called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And I recommend it to everyone because it really paints a picture of what it's like for someone starting in their first manager role to the pinnacle of leadership. And there's 5 steps in between. And oftentimes I run into clients who have promoted someone, and that person was an amazing seller, but struggles to manage people. All right? And then I'm working with a client who's at level 4. He's amazing at running his business. He's developed a leader to succeed, but he still doesn't want to step away from all the other things. And he wants to be involved in everything. So I'm going to give you some strategies around 2 things today. 1, what sort of mindset can you adopt to overcome what I call multifaceted leadership, wearing all the hats in the business? Okay? You see that a lot in agencies. You see that a lot in family-run businesses, right? Where the leader of the organization still manages accounts, still sells, hires and fires people, does all the IT, is responsible for the marketing, takes orders, cuts the POs, you name it, right? Stretching themselves thin. And the second piece that I'm going to cover is around what do you do when you newly promote leaders? Like, how can you help these people become more effective and become productive at a faster rate? Because how many times have we seen in our experience someone get promoted, as I mentioned, and then they're just kind of like, good luck, right? And that's where I come in. And this presents many challenges, right? When you think about leadership in general, whether you're newly promoted or you're the owner of the business, you have challenges around delegation. How do you decide what to delegate? You have challenges around multitasking, right? You got to get 10 things done today. So how do you prioritize? How do you stay focused? It's a big challenge for everyone, not just in leadership roles. Time is of the essence. You know, days go by very quickly. How do you become a master of time and space so that you can be as productive as possible and do the most critical things that matter without getting distracted? Essentially, what I see all the time is what I call reactive leadership versus proactive leadership. Okay? Reactive leadership is when you're putting out fires, you're answering the phone calls, you're very focused on solving the problems that come up in the moment, versus a proactive leadership style, which is very focused on staying clear and laser focused on the initiatives in the business, the strategies that are going to grow the business, and delegate out a lot of those things that need to be reactively done. Leaders often miss coaching opportunities for their team because they're caught up in all the above. So as a leader, if you're grooming someone to take over the business, or you've got somebody who's going to manage people, you want to be coaching them all the time so that they're learning continuously, so that they're skilling up, so that they can become strategic leaders in their own right. And what I mean by strategic leader is somebody who's proactive, someone who is clear on the goals and the objectives of the business, someone who has a long-term vision of the business and is not caught up in the inertia of the day-to-day. And that's a skill set that you can develop over time. It's in everyone. You just need to get to it.
Have you ever heard the phrase, work instead of working in the business, work on the business?
Absolutely.
I heard that about a year ago when I went.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd have my staff meetings at 2 o'clock in the
Mm-hmm.
morning and think of something. But now that I have staff, you've never done that before,
Something similar. Something very similar.
have you? But now, having staff, it's okay. I've got to talk to this person. I got to,
Yeah.
like you said, help grow this person.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
Yeah, that shift from working in the business to working on the business. That's strategic leadership. That's a great analogy. Absolutely. Well, now that we're on that, you were just mentioning it, take a moment, both of you, and reflect on these 3 things. Reflect on, number 1, a recent situation where multitasking may have hindered your strategic thinking. Rather than thinking ahead, rather than working on a strategic initiative, you ended up multitasking and that got in the way. Take a second and just think about that. And when you've got that in your head, how did that impact the business, the team, or the outcome? And in a different perspective, if you've hired somebody or you've got somebody that you're grooming as a leader, what challenges is that person faced with? Transitioning from that individual contributor to a leader within the organization. What do you see when you think about that person? What are they challenged with making that shift? And again, how did that impact the team? How does that impact the business? Anyone want to share an example? Mm-hmm.
in a close period of time, plus also
Mm.
and I could see him sitting back going, because it was worse for him.
Right.
Because he's new to the business. I think let's step back.
Yeah.
Let's look at this whole. So I can absolutely see how it's going to be business.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's slowing him down and he was hesitant on.
Right.
And yeah, totally.
Yeah. So when
Things at too short a time.
so you have this situation where you're bringing on all these lines, you're feeling overwhelmed. The person you're grooming is exposed to that,
Exactly.
and then they're hesitating. They're like, oh, the feelings of overwhelm bleed in to that individual. Yeah. Yeah. Great example, and it happens to the best of us. So how do we overcome this stuff? I mean, I could stand here for days, and I could work with you one-on-one and chip away. But I'm going to give you some practical tips, okay?
Time management?
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
Well, and we laugh, but there is a discipline involved around,
Absolutely.
all right, around strategic time allocation, And when you're in reactive mode, it escapes you. You could plan your day out totally efficiently. You know what, I'm going to meet with 10 people while I'm at AHR, And then, oh, I'm getting pulled in by this manufacturer and I really need to please him today, so I can't go to this event, right? Or I'm going to go out and party tonight, and then I'm still,
Yesterday.
and I'm still going to,
The whole day.
No, my whole schedule. You know, you come here with a set
Right.
plan and things you want to accomplish, and then unfortunately, especially in my role, you know, your plans can change and derail in a heartbeat. You know, someone's flight got delayed and they can't make the meeting, and then you have to pivot and maneuver your
right?
day. Don't waste that time. You know, that's an hour that you had dedicated. Well, my time's money, right? So I've got to recoup that some way.
Yeah.
And so then you pivot and you're like, okay, who can I meet? Who can I rope in? Like last minute kind of shift. And it's trying.
So it is trying. And it sounds easy when you say it, but a lot of people laugh it off. And that's because we're so used to being in reactive mode that thinking about making the shift just seems ludicrous, right? But there are many, many ways to become more proactive as a leader, to free up time for yourself. And the first thing is time blocking. But you need to be disciplined. Countless people schedule time in their calendars and say, you know what, every week on Wednesdays at 10 a.m., I'm going to do my cold calls. They put it in their Outlook, and then they never follow it. So if you're going to time block, you want to be more strategic. You can go in even a level deeper. And rather than time block well ahead, time block on a daily basis. Look at your day today, first thing in the morning, and say, which windows do I have that I can block to focus on strategic initiatives today? And it doesn't have to be an hour. 25 minutes is all you need. Don't even book 30 minutes. Book 30 minutes in your calendar, okay? But take 25 minutes minimum a day, time block it, and use it for something critical and crucial. There's a technique called the Pomodoro technique. Has anybody heard of that? So the Pomodoro technique is all about maximizing your ability to focus and leveraging your brain power. Your brain will only stay on maximum full throttle for 25 minutes at a time. That's it, before it starts to decline. Right? So many of us sit in front of our laptops for hours on end thinking we're going to bang stuff out, and then your brain's trailing off, you're checking your phone and all this kind of stuff. But the truth is that after 25 minutes, you're losing your train of focus anyways. So if you take 25-minute time block, you set a timer, you do one task, and you put some focus music on in the background, and you put your phone aside, and you tell yourself for 25 minutes, I'm just going to do this one thing and I'm going to try to finish it. Your brain power is maximized, you're focused on the task at hand, you're getting as much done as you possibly can, and then you step away. Peak performance habit. So time blocking, trick number one. The next thing is prioritization techniques. I conduct exercises with my clients all the time because we have long to-do lists, okay? Let me ask you, when you get up in the morning and you look at your to-do list, how do you prioritize today? What's your approach?
Well, it's different days for me. I mean, there's some days that I'm working in the business and it's putting out fires.
Mm-hmm.
It's which customers are screaming the loudest.
Right.
Parts are delayed, manufacturers don't recommend to get them back up and running. But then other days, it's completely different. You know, other days I'm able to actually do my job, and there's a big difference in that. You know, I have inside sales that takes care of my inside portion, my warehouse, my shipping, my invoicing. I have my engineers that help me on a technical aspect, which frees me up to do my job, which is relationships.
Yeah.
It's building those relationships so customers trust me and know I want to come through for them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of hit and miss, especially with the way the world's been lately with lead times.
Yeah.
It's been trying to be focused and do my job and not help the whole team.
Right.
It's difficult.
So what I'm hearing is you're very reactive every day.
Yeah.
And you hope that one day you have time for yourself. So if you time blocked 25 minutes a day, would that be possible for yourself? Okay. And the second piece is simplify your day. If you sat down and said, what are the 3 things that I need to do today? 3 things. You're always going to have more than 3. Okay? But it'll always be there tomorrow. So my clients who work with me, every time I talk to them every day, I say, what are your top 3 priorities for the day? I'll even take it a level further. What are your top 3 priorities for the week? Don't even worry about the day, for the week, and then just work on those 3 things. The other stuff will be there. There's another technique called, well, I'll get to that on delegation and empowerment, but think about it in 3s. That's my tip for you today is, what are your top 3 priorities for the week, and focus on those every day this week. That's it. And time block, 25 minutes at a time. All right, strategic planning sessions. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we get so caught up in our day-to-day, reactively on a regular basis, that we forget to take a step back and evaluate our goals. Okay? And goals that we set for ourselves on an annual basis or that are given to us from the organization we work for need to be revisited. So if you can build the discipline to say, you know what, one of my priorities this week on my 3 is to make sure that I review my goals and that I strategize how I'm going to stay on track with those goals and block 25 minutes to do that. What that's going to do is going to make sure that you're pointing in the right direction and that you are being proactive. The next piece is around delegation and empowerment. There's something called the Eisenhower matrix. Have you heard of the Eisenhower matrix? So the Eisenhower matrix is a decision-making quad and quartile. It's 4 boxes. You've got box number 1, which means if you've got a task that needs to be done and it's urgent and it requires your specific skill set, do it immediately if it's urgent. If you've got a task that's not urgent but requires your specific skill set, schedule it for later. If it's a task that's urgent but doesn't require your specific skill set, how many times does that come up, right? I'm just going to do it because I know I'll do it faster than somebody else. All right? Delegate it. Coach someone. Empower them. Allow them to learn. Delegate it out. And box number 4, I'll email this stuff out to you afterwards. Box number 4, if it's not urgent and it doesn't require your skill set and it's not going to have an impact on the business, don't even do it at all. Cut it out. 9 times out of 10, it won't even affect your business. Those are those mundane tasks that we do all the time because we think we need to do them, when really they're not having an impact on your business. All right, this one right here, mindfulness and stress management. We often, more than not, forget to take care of ourselves. And as our days go by and our stress levels go up, and we haven't cold plunged in the morning.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
talking about it's cold.
Yeah. You know, we're sitting on our screens. The phone calls are coming in. We got fires to put out. Next thing you know, we haven't eaten. We haven't drank enough water. We haven't stopped to take a walk. We haven't even been outside. But it only takes seconds to minutes to get up, go outside, get some fresh air, leave your phone at your desk or in the car or wherever it is, and just breathe, grab a glass of water or a tea or a coffee. A couple minutes later, go back to work. That couple of minutes makes a huge difference in your productivity, which is going to allow you to remind yourself to get back to time blocking, to have the discipline to prioritize, Focus on your 3 things and stay focused on your goals. And part of the goal setting, what I'm saying here is, look, a proactive leader always sets goals. Clearly defined, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound goals. And you associate KPIs with those. So if you are onboarding someone or someone is transitioning into a leadership role, you should have clear learning objectives set for them. You should have a coaching approach with goals so that you can measure the performance. And one of the things that always comes to me is when I got promoted into one of my roles, I was interviewing for the national accounts role at Purelator. I was being coached by a mentor, and the mentor said, hey, before your interview, why don't you put together a 30, 60, 90-day plan of how you would attack the business when you get there? It's like, perfect. So I spent like 3 days preparing, and I put together this awesome 30, 60, 90-day plan with clear learning objectives for myself, action items, and it was perfect for that role. Going to my interview, I present it to the VP of sales. He hires me. First day on the job, I said, okay, what do I do now? He looks at me like I'm an idiot. He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, what do you need me to do? He says, Chris, you put together the plan. Follow your plan. You've got the goals clearly lined out. We're going to measure your success based on completing those action items. So already, I went from that proactive mindset to easily falling back into reactive, going, what do I do? Right? To being reminded, stay the course, block your time, prioritize your actions, reflect back on your goals, and take care of yourself while you're doing it.
You ever heard of SMART?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Smart goal setting.
SMART goals.
Yeah,
I used it quite a bit.
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I set SMART goals on a regular basis. So here's the impact that following those practices will have. If I could leave you with 3 practices, 25-minute time block once a day. Focus on 3 priorities a week. Get them done. And take time to yourself and breathe. That's going to shift your mindset to proactive quicker than anything else. Obviously, the strategic planning sessions and the ongoing goal setting are very helpful, but if you're going to, in the rule of 3s, those are the first 3 that I would recommend. And if you do those, you're going to have improved focus. You're going to notice that you're going to become way better at managing your time. Because you're so clear on your priorities, your communication improves with everyone around you. You're going to, if you coach people on this stuff, and one of your priorities is to focus on, developing the future leaders, you're going to have an enhanced development program. You're going to see productivity from them quicker. You're going to be able to measure your results, and it's just going to build a resilience within your organization. Because the leader sets the tone. The leader sets the tone. All right, another reflection for you. The last reflection was around what happens when you're reactive or you miss something. This time it's, think about a time when a proactive approach, you were actually being proactive, yielded good results for you. How did it influence your team when you did that?
How it influenced my team dynamics.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. What I'm seeing here is that you grew the business quickly, or your lines quickly. You took on a lot, but you started proactive. And then because of it, and a lack of maybe some strategic planning sessions that I mentioned earlier, had you fall into reactive mode. So how would you change that? What could you do better next time if you were to revisit that situation and do it all over again?
Be more strategic at it, come up with a plan. Now we come up, I've gone back into my records for the last how many decades, and that's how I came back upon the SMART.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just more strategic.
Yeah.
Have everything laid out.
I love it. So going back to the tips, goal setting, and performance management, right? KPIs, key performance indicators. What I'm hearing is if you were to do that again and bring on all these lines, by setting SMART goals along the way and being more strategic, it would have avoided the potential reactivity in the situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's proactive strategic leadership skills that you're developing by reflecting on that and recognizing that that experience now is a lesson
Mm-hmm.
so that you can continuously improve yourself.
A
Right.
lesson for both of us.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
myself as a leader, him as and I talk about.
The future leader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah,
Every situation in life and business is a learning experience. Right.
never a problem.
Yeah. Right. How did you did that resonate with you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. As far as the proactive, I was trying to sit here and think what I've done.
Yeah.
I try to be very, very strategic, right?
Hmm.
Like I said, time is money, and where I spend my time is important to me. But I would have to go back to COVID. When COVID was coming in, so I sell a lot of PPE
Mm-hmm.
to manufacturers, and without PPE, that means they have to shut down, and people go without paychecks.
Right.
So when COVID first hit, we kind of knew a little bit of what the situation was going to be, and kind of foreseen some of the hardships we were about to be faced with. And so I brought in like 6 months worth of PPE supplies for my customers because I knew, what was going to happen. And that helped. I mean, I never shut them down. Between working with my manufacturers, getting ahead of the problem, and foresee it. And a lot of that came from communication with them, which was my relationship with them. They're like, hey, we need to get this on the shelf. It's getting ready to be gone. I appreciated that. I guess the second thing I have is lead times. Lead times has been insane.
Right.
And every day they were changing. And so some of the things I did was every quarter review my inventory with my customers, break down the lines, and receive communication from manufacturers on pulling that out, what it's going to look like. And by doing that, my team, my inside sales team, they were a part of all of that and accomplishing all of that. So communicating with them, I don't cover all their accounts, but they took what we were doing together collectively as a team and implemented it in their other accounts, which helped them stay ahead. Or if they couldn't get ahead of the problem, they were able to deviate and try to find substitutes.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of things that started out proactive and then ended up reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So I was one of the first to import a whole container from China, and it was all cord sets, and it was something that traditionally Carlton Bates had never done. The manufacturing division did, and that's where I came from. So I knew enough about importing to be dangerous, but not entirely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was a little rough. So So here I bring in this whole container of cord sets. It's not palletized. My facility had never received in a container. So we didn't even have the channel locks to unlock it. I had to borrow my customer, had to come over and help me unlock it and
Wow.
break the lock. But I unloaded every single box, and my team was right there with me, helping palletize it as I'm bringing it up the container. Like we're all covered in sweat, and we're sweating because this is in the summer. Like it was just miserable, and I was trying to be innovative. I was trying to be strategic. I mean, high margin China container. It was good for me. Good commission check. Started out super proactive, and then all of a sudden, all of these uncalculated, scenarios hit me at once, and I was like, oh my god. Like I became very reactive trying to get my truck in. The drivers broke down 4 or 5 times.
Right.
Customer was getting ready to go down, and so it became very reactive very quickly. Facility smelled like rubber. It was just bad.
I appreciate you sharing that, because oftentimes we proactively do things, we strategize, we put a plan together, and then we end up in reactive situations. You've both shared that.
It derails.
Learn from it.
And really effective strategy is around uncovering and thinking critically about every potential thing that could go wrong. So there's a really good book out there called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. It's by an engineer. His name is Richard Rummel. He was a NASA engineer. He was part of the team that put the first spacecraft on the moon. And part of his job was to figure out, how the hell do we get this thing on the moon? So they had to strategize, and he developed the process around building a strategy, meaning that there's 3 things that you look at when you're building a strategy. He calls it the strategic kernel. The first thing is diagnosing every potential challenge or roadblock that could get in the way of you achieving your goal. Think about it. They didn't know what the surface of the moon was made of. They don't know all kinds of things. How are they going to land this thing on there? Right? So they spent months looking at every potential problem that could occur and writing them down, documenting them. Then the second part of the strategy is, or building good strategy, is creating an approach to overcome the problems so that you're proactively prepared when those problems occur. What do you do if the truck breaks down? What do you do if we don't have something to unlock the container? What do you do if we roll this out way too quickly and we can't handle the workload? And then from there, once you've got your approach, then you can build your action items. So now you've got an even better plan than your original plan, which was just setting goals. So there's a difference between setting goals and building a strategy. So, lessons learned again. And I can do a whole workshop on creating effective strategy, but if you can think of it in the sense that what challenges are getting in the way of me achieving my goal and what am I going to do to overcome it, you're a step ahead of all the other leaders out there. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So,
It was rough. It was weird.
that doesn't sound like it was a very pleasant experience.
Well, and especially whenever you have like basically all of your leadership looking at you like from the beginning, they're like, "What the hell are you doing? You're bringing in a container. It's
Right.
not what we do." And I'm like, "Well, we're going to give it a shot," and that was my mentality. And they were like, "All right, well."
Now what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, it got done. It was a good month for me, so.
Good for you. So when you newly promote somebody or you're grooming them in a leadership role, we tackled a couple of things ahead here, but it's really about you as the leader. Now it's about building a proactive leader. And there's 3 things that I always focus on. Again, you'll notice that I'm all about the rules of 3s, right? The first one is, if you're onboarding somebody or you're developing a leader who's going to take over the business, get clear on what your plan is to develop them. Do you have a leadership development program in place? If you don't, you can outsource. You can create one. You can tap into industry resources and share knowledge with your colleagues. But really, when you have a leadership development program in place for your future leaders, what you're doing is you're creating focus. You're already cultivating that proactive mindset, right? And it allows for strategic thinking, because they're moving away from that individual contributor model to a leadership model. Okay? The next piece that I always suggest and strongly recommend is that you have continuous learning initiatives. So outside of a leadership development plan, a program, what other learning do you want them to learn? And that could be part of the program, obviously. But when I'm talking about continuous learning initiatives, I'm thinking about training. You know, there's great leadership certificates from many universities out there that don't cost that much. You got to invest your time, but you can take away so much of that knowledge and apply it in their business. But really, it's about giving them learning opportunities to think outside the box and bring things into the business so that you can support them. And third, if not the most important one, get really, really clear and get them to get clear on what are their goals in their new role, so that you can hold them accountable to them. When you're developing leaders, future leaders, or you are a new leader in the business, remember my story about I made my plan? My boss was like, dude, follow the plan, right? It allows you to be clear on your direction. I can measure you along the way, and I can support you and hold you accountable to the strategic objectives that you set forth in your plan. So even delegating that out to the future leader and asking them to come up with the plan, guiding them along the way, and then holding them accountable is going to make a huge difference in their learning curve. Make sense? You also want to encourage them to delegate. And the best way for you to encourage a future leader to delegate is to delegate to them, rather than doing everything yourself. And that's a coaching technique. It's an effective coaching technique to delegate something out to somebody so you can empower them, right? When you look at your future leader's strengths, right? Maybe they're very good at something. Ordering shipping containers, because that's a new approach to the business that's going to be profitable. Delegate it out to them so you can maximize the efficiency rather than try to do it yourself. Leverage their strengths. And what that's going to coach and instill in your future leaders is that they should do the same with their team members. Leveraging the strengths of your team and delegating things out to them so that you are freeing time up for yourself, so that you can prioritize and remain strategic in your business, working on your business rather than in it. And delegation is a key technique that you want to coach your future leaders into immediately. When I left ITW, I had everything delegated out. So by the time it was time for me to exit and move into my business full time, I wasn't worried about the team. And the leader of the organization was like, great job, man. Thank you. Right? All because it was strengths-based. I got to know the whole team and what strengths they had and get them to be the experts in that. And when you empower someone through coaching, what I mean by that is you give them the ability to delegate. You give them the ability to take on projects, to contribute. But you mentor them through it. You're giving them guidance. and you're supporting them in their leadership journey, you are developing strategic thinkers because you lead by example by doing these things, which then they can mimic the same actions, the same behaviors, which are only going to benefit your organization in the end and yourself. Make sense? Beautiful. The most critical thing when you're developing leaders, and whether you send them for leadership development, or you put together a leadership development program, or you send them for training, and you're letting them delegate things out and offer coaching solutions, is that there's a continuous communication bridge between you and the future leader of the company. It goes both ways. Whether you're the future leader or the leader, you want to make sure that there's a feedback loop. And that feedback loop makes sure that everyone's aligned, that you're planning together, it's structured. And what I mean by this is that you should have a framework. I put here the 2x2 framework. What I mean by 2x2 framework is that in any one-on-one situation with your inside sales team, with your son, you want to follow a framework that is going to provide continuous learning opportunities. And 2x2 is real easy to remember. Every time you finish a meeting or a task, or you have a one-on-one with your team member, ask them 2 questions. What did you do very well in the last week, or in this meeting, or in this scenario? What do you think you did very well? They'll explain to you what they did well. They believe they did well. And if you were there, you could chime in and say, you know what? I do agree with that. You did that very well. I also think you did this very well. Bringing it to the forefront. Then the second question should be, what would you do better next time? What you're doing is you're opening the door to give them feedback without any resistance, right? Because people like to, they don't want to, they get their guard up. But by asking them, what could they do better next time? And I asked you that question earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I just had one-on-one for Jason's performance review 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And how I put that question, I said, if you were me, what do you think?
Yeah.
Which is what I was looking for.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, it surprised me how those questions, what did he think he did good in the last 12 months?
Yeah.
And that he came up with moving into sales and learning the products, and he did very well there. My comment was, you got up in front of a college apprenticeship course and talked to them for 3 hours, and you were scared, excuse my shitless, because it was public speaking. And I said, you did awesome.
Good.
And all of a sudden you went, oh, thank you.
I love it. I love it. You notice when you're in reactive mode, you're not reflecting. You're just doing. Lizard brain, path of least resistance. When you're in proactive mode, you're thinking, you're asking questions, you're reflecting, you're continuously improving. Love that you've got a 2x2 framework, very similar framework, but if you standardize it and you use it on a regular basis and you're disciplined in every scenario, all of a sudden productivity increases. You're seeing a big difference. And
I will say that's tough.
it is. You just got to remember.
Not to jump into every scenario. You should do this.
Yeah. 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 Don't tell them what to do.
No, exactly.
Right?
I agree.
Right? And that's the big thing. As entrepreneurs, we're so used to getting things done that oftentimes we just jam it down our employees' throats. Just do it this way. Right? But you're not really building skill sets that way. They're just doers. Beautiful. That's what I wanted to share. And then obviously I'm going to go back to goal setting and accountability. Anytime that you're developing a leader or you're developing yourself into a leadership role, just goal set and have someone hold you accountable. Have them goal set and hold them accountable. It flows. And what I mean by that is during your one-on-ones and you're giving feedback, pull the goals up and go over them. How are you doing on this? What went well? What could you do better? How are you doing on this? What went well? What could you do better? Where are you here? Right? Where do you need my support? Where do you need my guidance? Where do you need my mentorship?
Yeah, I also asked them, when do I follow up on this?
Yeah.
How often should I? Because I don't want to be micromanaged.
And that's great. Just don't confuse micromanagement with leading. Right? Or the other way around, leading with micromanagement. What I mean by that is sometimes people will not tell you when they need a follow-up on that because they don't want to impede on your time or they feel, right? So you can proactively check in on that and make sure that you are following up. When you do all these things, there's a major impact, all right, on the company, on the individual contributor, on the team. You stay focused on your vision. You see improvements in efficiencies and effectiveness when it comes to time management. You start hitting all your goals. Your engagement goes up. You're delegating. Tasks are getting done a lot more effectively. And that communication, that feedback loop is just, it becomes part of the culture. It's a beautiful thing. You know, there's a case study with PCL Construction. They really went all in on leadership development programs internally. They built a structured program that involved all of the above that you see here. And if you look at their numbers through COVID, right, construction went crazy, commercial construction. Their sales revenues went up like 92% between like 2021 and 2022. But the only way they could sustain that and keep employees engaged and grow at that rate and support the market was because they had a robust leadership pipeline. And they were able to start strategically putting proactive leaders, strategic thinkers, into all of these roles. Outstanding. One more reflection for you. Think about your current leadership style. If you're thinking about your current leadership style, where can you be more proactive? Specifically to enhance your team's performance. You don't have to answer me. I'm just leaving you with that thought. There's a lot of statistics available supporting how strategic leadership and proactive leadership impacts a business. Businesses who have stayed disciplined and implemented a leadership pipeline, there was a Boston consulting group. Hey, how's it going? Just almost finished this presentation. Come on in. You can come in. That's fine. No. But they're seeing 3.5 times more revenue growth than the average. Proactive leaders are 25% more likely to gain more market share in their business. And manufacturers are more likely to partner with companies with proactive strategies. So it all makes sense, right? All right, some key takeaways. I gave you all these time management strategies. What 3 are you going to use? These are the strategies. This is the impact. And then when it comes to building proactive leaders, same thing. I gave you some framework ideas, some strategies, some approaches. This is the impact. So if I could leave you with a shifted mindset today, I'm going to ask you to just think about what your plan is when it comes to one actionable step when you leave this room that you'll take to enhance leadership development for yourself and for your team. I do have a myriad of resources that I can offer. I mentioned some of them before. And I'm always around to offer support. That's what my business is all about. That's what I do. That's my passion. That's my purpose. But I want to give you a brief summary of what a developing leaders program looks like with Mindset Conquest. I get hired out and contracted by manufacturers, rep agencies, manufacturers, and wholesalers to develop their team members. And I do it in a virtual and an in-person hybrid mix where there's individual coaching, one-on-one with the leaders. If there's multiple leaders in the group, we also include team collaboration calls. I do workshops and training. There's progress calls with the leaders of the organization so that we can level set, get feedback, 2 by 2, measure, shift if we need to. And I always host a sales peak performance mindset boot camp as well. And this is all done over a 6-month period. It's very in-depth because these disciplines, the accountability that's required, doesn't happen in a weekend. It's a 6-month. Right? So I wanted to share that with you so you can get an idea of what that would look like. Okay? And that, my friends, concludes my presentation. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
you're welcome. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
And I invite you to reach out anytime, okay, if you have any questions or need support.
Yeah.
And we can go from there.